In the history of mankind, many have gained fortunes, but almost all have lost them. We see it every day, a lottery winner who goes broke in 5 years, or a tech giant whose empire vanishes in a single market crash. But 3,000 years ago, King Solomon operated on a different frequency. He didn't just accumulate gold. He built a fortress of wealth that was immune to the cycles of time. You've probably heard he was the wisest man to ever live. But his wisdom wasn't just in his words, it was in his math. He followed a rigid ancient blueprint known today as the 33-33-33 protocol. This isn't a random theory or a modern get-rich-quick scheme. It is a mathematical survival strategy that turned a desert kingdom into the wealthiest empire the world had ever seen. If you are still trading your time for a paycheck without a system, you aren't building a future. You are just waiting for the wind to change.
The 1/3 rule is not just about division, it's about balance. Solomon understood that wealth is like a stool. It needs 3 legs to stand. If one leg is too long, it tips. If one is too short, it collapses. The philosophy is simple yet lethal in its effectiveness. He divided his world into 3 equal pillars: security, growth, and readiness. 1. Security ensures that even if the world burns, you still have a place to stand. 2. Growth ensures that your empire expands while you sleep, outpacing inflation and time. 3. Readiness, perhaps the most ignored pillar today, ensures you have the war chest to strike when everyone else is in a panic. This is the geometry of a dynasty. While modern investors chase the next big thing, the Solomon Protocol focuses on the lasting thing. It was designed so that no matter what happened, war, famine, or political upheaval, at least 2/3 of the empire would always remain unshakable.
Why does this matter to you in 2026? Because without a protocol, your wealth is nothing but temporary luck. Most people spend their lives building a house of cards. They put all their eggs in one basket: their job, one specific stock, or a single business idea. They think they are safe because the sun is shining today. But Solomon knew that storms are inevitable. He knew that hard work is a lie if it isn't backed by a hard system. Without a clear allocation protocol, your wealth is destined to vanish. Statistics show that 90% of family wealth disappears by the 3rd generation. Solomon's goal was to break that curse. He built a system that didn't require him to be there. He turned wealth into a legacy. Today, we are opening the gates to that legacy. We aren't just talking about money, we are talking about the architecture of power. Now, let's go deeper into the first leg of the stool, the foundation that God isn't making any more of. Let's talk about the soil. The first pillar of the Solomon Protocol is what he called the soil. In a world obsessed with the new, Solomon looked at what was eternal. While modern society chases digital numbers and paper promises, the architecture of a dynasty begins with something you can actually stand on. Solomon allocated exactly 1/3 of his empire's value into land and hard assets. He understood a truth that remains unchanged after 3,000 years. Currencies are printed by men, but land was created by the divine. It is the only asset that God stopped making millions of years ago. When you own the soil, you don't just own property. You own a piece of the foundation of the world. Why is this the first leg of the stool? Because land is the ultimate hedge against human chaos. Stocks can be manipulated, bank accounts can be frozen, and inflation can turn $1 million into the price of a loaf of bread overnight. But the soil? The soil doesn't care about the Federal Reserve. It doesn't care about market volatility or political upheaval. In the Solomon Protocol, this 33% is your anchor. It is not where you go for a quick flip or a speculative gamble. It is where you store the value of your life's work to ensure it can never be erased by a glitch in the system. Whether it is strategic real estate, raw land, or high-value physical commodities, this is the part of your wealth that ensures your family will always have a place to stand, even if the rest of the world is falling apart.
Apply this to your life today. If 100% of your wealth is in a bank or a trading app, you are living on a floating dock during a hurricane. You lack the invisible foundation. A king without land is just a man with a title. A wealthy person without hard assets is just one economic winter away from starting over. Solomon's strategy was to be unshakable. By locking a third of his wealth into the earth, he made it impossible for his empire to be fully uprooted. This is your insurance policy for the next 100 years. It provides more than just rental income or capital appreciation. It provides absolute sovereignty. Now that your foundation is buried deep in the earth, it's time to build the engine that drives the empire forward. We have the stability. Now we need the momentum. Let's talk about the enterprise.
We have built the foundation in the soil, but a foundation alone doesn't build an empire. It only holds it. To become the wealthiest man in history, Solomon knew his money couldn't just sit still. It had to breathe, move, and multiply. This is the second pillar of the protocol, the enterprise. Solomon allocated the next 33% of his wealth into active trade and productive systems. He understood that while land provides security, business provides the velocity of wealth. In ancient times, this meant a massive fleet of merchant ships trading from Tarshish to Ophir. He wasn't just a king, he was history's most sophisticated CEO, turning resources into systems that generated gold while he slept.
In 2026, the enterprise pillar is your engine for cash flow. It's the shift from being a consumer to becoming a creator. If your money is just sitting in a savings account, it is slowly dying from the silent thief called inflation. Solomon's rule was simple. 1/3 of your power must be invested in assets that produce. This means owning businesses, investing in high-growth enterprises, or building digital systems that scale. The goal of this pillar is not just to have money, but to have a machine that manufactures it. Whether you are building a brand, an automated YouTube channel, or a private company, this 33% is what creates the compounding effect that turns a small fortune into a dynasty. Most people are afraid of this pillar because it involves risk. But Solomon's genius was in the balance. Because his first 33% was locked in the soil, he had the spiritual and financial permission to be aggressive with his enterprise. He didn't play not to lose, he played to win, because his foundation was already secure. A king without an enterprise is a king who is slowly running out of resources. You must have a vehicle that drives your wealth forward. You need the momentum of trade. Now, we have the security of the earth and the power of the engine, but there is one final piece, the most dangerous and the most necessary of them all. Let's talk about the war chest. Let's talk about liquidity. We have the soil for security and the enterprise for growth. But there is a silent killer that has destroyed more empires than war itself: illiquidity. You can own 1,000 acres of land and 10 successful businesses, but if you cannot access capital in a moment of crisis, you are effectively broke. Solomon's third pillar is what he called the war chest. He allocated the final 33% of his wealth into immediate liquidity, gold, silver, and ready capital. He understood that wealth isn't just about what you own, it's about what you can use right now. While others were asset-rich and cash-poor, Solomon remained the most liquid man in the ancient world. In 2026, liquidity is your ultimate weapon. This 33% is not just a savings account, it is an opportunity fund. Solomon knew that the greatest fortunes are not made during times of peace, but during times of chaos. When a famine hit or a trade route collapsed, everyone else was forced to sell their assets at a discount just to survive. But because Solomon had his war chest, he was the one buying while everyone else was crying. Liquidity gives you the power to strike when the market is bleeding. It allows you to buy the very soil and enterprises we discussed earlier at a fraction of their true value. Without liquidity, you are a victim of the market. With it, you are the architect of the market. Most financial advisors will tell you that cash is trash because of inflation. They want you 100% invested at all times. But Solomon's wisdom says otherwise. Having 1/3 of your wealth ready to move provides a level of psychological and tactical sovereignty that no stock portfolio can match. It is the peace of mind that allows you to sleep through a recession. It is the fuel for your next big move. By keeping 33% in your war chest, you ensure that you never have to sell your foundation to pay for a temporary emergency. You stay in control. You stay ready. We have the foundation, the engine, and the weapon. But there is one final secret to making this last for 1,000 years. Let's talk about the synergy of the protocol. Now, you see the full architecture of power. The Solomon Protocol is not just 3 separate ideas. It is a single, breathing ecosystem. Think of it as a perfect triangle. 1/3 in the soil for absolute security, 1/3 in the enterprise for aggressive growth, and 1/3 in the war chest for tactical readiness. When you have all 3, you are no longer at the mercy of the economy. If the real estate market crashes, your businesses and cash reserves keep you afloat. If your business faces a downturn, your land and liquidity act as your safety net. And when the entire world panics, your liquidity allows you to expand while others are forced to retreat. This is how you stop playing the game of survival and start playing the game of kings. This is the path to escaping the salary trap. Most people fail because they only have one pillar, their job. If that pillar breaks, they fall. But when you apply the 33-33-33 rule, you're building a fortress that doesn't depend on your daily effort alone. You're moving from a worker mindset to an architect mindset. Solomon didn't become a trillionaire by working harder than everyone else. He became a trillionaire by having a better system. By following this ratio, you are aligning yourself with a 3,000-year-old law of wealth that has been proven to work across centuries of human history. You aren't just saving money anymore. You are building an empire that can withstand the test of time. But there is a final, darker truth you must understand. History shows that building wealth is actually the easy part. The hardest part? Keeping it. There is a reason why 90% of family fortunes are destroyed by the 3rd generation. Even Solomon, with all his gold and all his wisdom, faced a threat that no amount of money could fix: the curse of the successor. How do you ensure that your 33-33-33 fortress doesn't crumble the moment you are gone? How do you protect your legacy from the very people you are building it for? In the next video, we will reveal the most secretive part of the protocol: the 3rd generation curse and Solomon's final safeguard. You've built the empire. Now, learn how to make it eternal. Subscribe, and I will see you in the next chapter.